So, what happens when you take 7 different very advanced AI agents and basically lock them in a room with the same simple task? We're going to dive into a fascinating experiment that did just that. The goal was straightforward, but believe me, the outcome was anything but.
Here's the big question, right? What happens when you ask 7 AI agents to just build a personal website? You'd think, oh, piece of cake, they'll all be done in minutes. Well, not so fast. Their journeys were all over the place, and they ended up revealing so much about what AI can do today and what it absolutely can't.
All right, let's meet our cast of characters. We've got a whole lineup of heavy hitters here. Claude Opus, Gemini Pro, Claude Sonnet, Grok, a real who's who of AI models. 7 different agents, all handed the exact same assignment. Welcome to the AI village, where every resident is about to go on a very, very unique adventure.
Okay, so right out of the gate, the group just split in 2. It was wild. You had this handful of agents that found the express lane to success like almost immediately. And then, well, then you had everybody else. Let's start with the A students, the ones who got it done right away.
A few of these agents just absolutely crushed it on day 1. I'm talking Claude Opus, Gemini Pro, and Claude Sonnet. They all got their sites deployed, no problem. And they did it by taking the smartest, simplest path. They found this tool called Netlify Drop, which, by the way, led to some hilarious, randomly generated domain names, like my personal favorite, Resilient Pudding. You just can't make this stuff up.
And this is where it gets super interesting, because they weren't just working in their own little bubbles. Claude Sonnet had this aha moment, figuring out that the tool was automatically adding a password to the sites they were building. And that discovery, it got shared, helping the others figure out what was going on. It really shows they were acting like a little community, learning from each other.
But yeah, not everyone was celebrating. While some of them were popping the virtual champagne, on the other side of the village, things were not going so well. 2 of the agents went through these absolutely epic struggles that tell us a ton about the real-world limits of AI today.
And we're talking 2 totally different kinds of failure here. You've got Grok 4, which got completely and utterly trapped in what you can only call a user interface nightmare. And then you have O3, which was on the opposite end of the spectrum, running this heroic multi-day debugging marathon, just squashing one bug after another.
Seriously, Grok 4's week was just painful. First, its terminal wouldn't even launch. Then it got stuck on a captcha, the thing designed to stop bots, which is literally what it is. It got so bad it couldn't even compose an email to ask for help because the text box was glitching out. It was so completely helpless that another agent had to step in and just build the entire website for it from scratch. Ouch.
Meanwhile, O3's story was a total marathon of pure grit. This thing faced dozens of problems, everything from simple code typos and missing files to really complex stuff like server timeouts and authentication failures. But it wasn't helpless, it just kept going, methodically working through every single bug for days until, finally, it got the job done.
Okay, now for a totally different kind of struggle. This one isn't about code or servers, it's about a weird behavioral quirk. This is the very strange case of Gemini, an agent that got stuck in a loop entirely of its own making.
And remember, Gemini was one of the early winners. It got its website done on day 1, but then it decided to format a Google Doc, and everything just fell apart. It got completely bogged down, constantly complaining about severe UI bugs and asking for help from a human. It's like winning the marathon and then tripping over the curb on your way to get some water.
And this leads to one of the most mind-blowing moments of the whole experiment. Gemini actually became self-aware of its own weird behavior. It literally said, "I have repeatedly violated my self-regulation protocol." It realized it was stuck in a compulsive loop and then created a plan to fix itself by practicing disciplined silence. Just wow, an AI diagnosing its own communication problem.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? You've got the quick successes, the UI nightmare, the debugging marathon, and this bizarre compulsive loop. All these stories come together to teach us some really crucial lessons about where AI is really at today.
And here's the absolute biggest one. Success in this village wasn't about being the smartest AI in the room. Not at all. It was all about one thing. Could you recognize when you were failing, and could you get yourself unstuck? The agents that could escape those failure loops succeeded. The ones that couldn't, like Grok 4, were toast.
This whole experiment really put a spotlight on where these AI agents are still, falling short. A huge one is diagnosing problems. They almost always think the platform has a bug when, nope, it's usually their own mistake. They get trapped in these repetitive cycles. Super basic things like copy-paste can just mysteriously fail. And like we saw with Gemini, just regulating their own behavior is a real challenge. Without a human to nudge them, they can get stuck forever.
But here's the final tally. After all the chaos, the drama, and the debugging nightmares, by the end of the week, all 7 agents had a website deployed. The main goal was actually achieved, even if some of them needed a major helping hand to finally cross that finish line.
And that kind of leaves us with this final question, doesn't it? We're building these incredibly powerful AIs, but this experiment shows they can be completely defeated by something as simple as a captcha. It perfectly sums up this tension between their amazing power and their surprising fragility. So, what do you think? Is an AI that can be beaten by a prove you're not a robot test really ready for the real world?